All right. We've been on a journey past 4 or 5 weeks talking about how to become a blended family. And I had a script of how we're going to approach this, but I decided we're just going to wing it because this is mainly going to be us telling you what we've learned and some of our struggles. And so we're just going to go with it. Um, we got married. Um, we'd both been married before. We've discussed that many times, and we're starting a brand new family, brand new marriage. We had a couple of preconceived notions. Number one, this marriage was going to be perfect, right? This
Mhm.
marriage is going to be perfect.
We were just going to get married and everything's going to be great.
It's going to be great. We know how to do it wrong. We've already done it wrong. This is going to be right. We get along. We know each other. We love each other. Perfect marriage. Wasn't always the case.
Yep.
Took us 12 years to realize that, and a Weekend to Remember Family Life Conference. Best thing we ever did. And preconceived notion number two, her kids were going to bond with me automatically right away. Not so much. So we're at our last episode, number 4 of our series, Becoming Blended. So we're going to talk about that right now. So stay tuned. All right, I'm Joey.
I'm Lori.
And we are Christ-Centered Marriage and Family. We are all things Christ-centered. We specialize in marriage and family, blended family mainly. What is blended family? Blended family is when two couples come together who have been previously married, whether you've been divorced or whether you've lost a spouse, or even if you were a single parent from not because you wanted to be. It happens.
Mhm.
People become single parents. Not We don't want to be in bad circumstances. Sometimes they just happen. Sometimes a young person is a single parent and they marry somebody else and they form a blended family. No matter how you got there, if you are in a blended family, this episode is for you. Um, After this episode, we're going to get back into our marriage shows. I think we're going to do the good things about marriage. We're just going to do a fun episode talking about all the good things about marriage. No negative. Promise. Can we do that? All the good things about marriage. No negative. So today, we're going to finish up our series. First, we talked about you just got divorced or you lost your spouse. You need time to grieve. You got to figure out what's next. You don't want to jump into marriage right away.
Mhm.
Want to take it slow. Maybe take time to heal. Like what did the divorce care say?
Mhm.
You know,
You have to get to a point where you are content, even if it just ended up being you and God.
yep.
You have to be content with that before you even try to form a new relationship.
And don't do it until you're ready. Don't even pursue a new relationship until you are ready. And I think the number one thing you need to do is seek out God's will. God may want you to be single for a long time, or God may, kind of like our case, God just kind of brought us together right away. He kind of did. It might be hypocritical to say you had to wait. You had to wait. If you learn about us, like, well, y'all were divorced like 4, 5, 6 months, and then y'all started dating. You know,
We weren't looking to date.
we weren't
We
looking
were
to date.
set up on
It
a
just,
lunch,
well, we kind of knew each other.
kind of a blind date. But
Well,
we were
yeah.
already going to church together. So
Well, we were talking around the coffee pot too.
yeah.
After we've been divorced, we kind of sharing our struggles around the coffee pot, and it just kind of worked. But anyway, so that's just part of the progress. And then you found somebody to start dating. You started that dating process. How does that work? That was what we did in our second episode. How does dating again start work, especially when you have kids? And now you're going to start dating again. And one of the things that you said don't do when you start dating with kids.
Don't bring your kids into it right away. You and the person you're dating form the relationship. Make sure it's going to work before you bring the kids in, because if you don't, And as a teacher, I see this all the time, and I have another example. Just this week, I have an example of this.
No specifics.
No specifics,
No specifics.
but just parents dating just whoever, and then the kids are brought in. Maybe they've brought them in prematurely or whatever, and then the relationship, not marriage necessarily, just relationship doesn't work, and then they break up. So the kids are exposed to this cycle of this new person constantly. They get used to the person, they like the person, and then they're gone. And then the new person get used to then they're gone. So it's a traumatic cycle over again. So it's not good for the kids. So please keep that in mind.
So that was some of the things we talked about in our second episode. In the last episode, you have found the perfect person to marry. It's going to be great this time. You're going to get married. So we're going to start doing that. And so we talked about what should you do. One of the things we talked about was have counseling, get the kids involved from the very first. Once the kids realize that, you know what, hey, she told the kids, Joey and I are going to get married. That for the most part, the youngest boy, he wasn't old enough to really know what's going on. But the other two were like, all right, great. I don't think they understood what that meant, but they were excited about it. So we kind of got them involved. We didn't get them involved as much as we should have. So in the third episode, when you start planning your wedding, especially when there's kids from a previous relationship or previous marriage involved, get the kids involved. Let them have a say in this marriage, because you're not just marrying a new spouse, you're marrying the kids too. You're bringing the kids along all the way up to the wedding. Make the kids part of the wedding. Give them a part. Don't let them sitting out in the chairs. Give them a part in the wedding. Let them know that, hey, I'm a part of this. Let them feel like they belong. Now you're married. You have started a blended family. You may have been a blended family for a week, 6 months, or like us, 12 years, and you finally realize, we're not doing this right. We have not been doing this right. We've been struggling. Last year, we got to the point where it was not just blended family. We just, like most married couples do. But you know what? Most of them, I'd say most married couples have problems, but they don't admit it. We got to the point where it was like, we don't like this.
But they just accept it as
They just accept
this is how it's going to be. So.
We don't want to be two people on the opposite sides of the house, and we get together to go to church, or hey, see you going to work, going to school. Let's go out to dinner Friday night, and then you come home and it's just status quo, and then one little thing sets you off, and you're fighting, and you don't resolve issues, and the kids, you have issues over the kids, and this and that. We didn't want to be like that no more. We don't want to be like that more. A lot of the issue was because we had that blended family dynamic. We just didn't go about it right. And we started reading these books. And we was like, we need to tell people about this. We need to help people. So that's what we're going to do. You have anything to add before we start?
I don't think so.
We're going to jump right into it. You know what? I got to get my Bible. Hold on real quick. I'm going to read the marriage theme. This is our marriage theme. If you were getting married for the first time or the second time, or, sometimes it might be the third time. Who knows? You might say, what is the theme for us in our marriage as a married couple? I'm going to read it. I'm not going to elaborate on it. We've done that before in our first 2 episodes, and we'll probably go back maybe a couple months down the road and redo some of those episodes because they weren't very good. Well, our first episodes we're getting better. I think we're getting better. We got better equipment. We got a banner. One day I'm going to figure out how to get better recording software and apps and whatever, and we'll be fancy. And so if you're married and you want to know what Bible section, what part of the Bible was going to help us in our marriage, well, I'm going to tell you, this is our theme. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 22 through 32. And some people, if you know that passage, if that rings a bell, you're like, ooh, it's kind of tough. Talking about submission, and I'm like, well, hold on. This is it. I'm not going to explain it too much because we've done it before and might do it again. So if you're married, again, if you're Christians and you're married again, you think, what is my theme? Here it is. Wives, be subject to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ also is the head of the church, he himself being the Savior of the body. So, number one, it's Paul says, wives, submit to your husbands. You might think, oh, that's kind of tough. And women going, I don't know about that. But then he says, husbands, love your wives like Christ also loved the church. Oof. I think we got it. We got it tougher. For you to submit to me is easy when you see what I got to do. I got to love you like Christ loved the church. That's tough. And if I do that, husbands, if you do that, you won't even have to think about her submitting to you, because it'll be a relationship that is patterned after the Bible. Christ is the head, and then the man submits to Christ, and the wife submits to the husband. So let me read. Husbands, love your wife just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of the water of the word. So husbands, when you live a godly life, when you lead your life as Christ leads you, then you lead your wife. You are making her holy. What that word sanctify means, making her holy. But your leadership is going to make her holy, that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she might be holy and blameless. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his own wife loves himself. I like myself. Men, we love ourselves. We love our hobbies. We love our extra activities. We love our man caves or whatever. If you've got a man cave. But if you got to give some of that up for her, you need to do that. You need to make sure that whatever you like to do, she needs to come first. You need to love her more than you love yourself. I know he said as yourself, but I say more. For no one ever hated his own flesh. But guys, if you're one of these oddballs that you're woe is me and life's terrible and I just can't stand myself, that's a problem. I don't know how you get over that, but you gotta get over that. But it's not, what my point is, it's not normal for a person to hate their own selves.
Mhm.
You got a problem if you do. Most people like themselves, but you gotta love your wife as much or more. For this reason, a man shall leave his father, and this is Genesis chapter 2, is what he's quoting from. A man shall leave his father and his mother, and shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. It's a great mystery, but I'm speaking in reference to Christ's church. So that's it. I'm not going to elaborate more, but number one, when you're married again, that should be your theme. You should read that. You should know that. You should meditate on that. Get you some commentary. Ask somebody to explain that to you. That should be the theme of your marriage relationship. Okay, so let's move on. Lori, talk about our second point.
Speak about, let's see, putting your marriage before your children. So that's something that's took us a long time to figure out too. It took me a long time to figure out, I guess, because what your natural inclination is to do, because you and your biological children are going to naturally be closer. And something Ron Dill talks about in his book is that if he had kids
Yeah.
in the marriage,
Yeah.
he would naturally be closer to his kids. I'm naturally closer to my kids. And so, but in order for the family to work, our marriage has to come first. After our relationship with God, our marriage has to come first. So, because if the marriage isn't working, nothing else is going to work. Doesn't
Right.
matter.
Right.
And so, it was really hard, and it still is hard sometimes when there's something going on with kids. My kids they're a little older now, so when we first got married, they were little, but our youngest one was about close to 3 when we got married.
I used 3.
Now he's like 16, so it's like, they're all older now, but still, sometimes it's a struggle to not put him before us. So it's something you got to continually work on. So we got to make sure that we're working on our marriage relationship with God first, and then relationship with each other, so that it stays intact, so that our family stays intact.
Mm-hmm. And when we came back from our marriage conference last year, we finally sat down with our 2 youngest boys. The oldest boy, he's already married and got kids, so it'd be like talking, preaching to the choir, talking to him, because he'd be like, "Yep, I'm married, I got kids, I understand."
Yeah.
So he's at that older boy. He's 25. He's got it figured out. We're proud of him. He's got his own family. So, um, we have 2 younger boys. one's 19, one's 16. And we sat down with them. We said, look, guys, we just want to say this. You can take it however you want to, but you guys are not the main focus. We'll focus on each other before we focus on you. You know, to put a marriage first. So we're not. My point is, we're not going to let you guys try to come between us, or we're not going to put you guys. I'm not going to put the boys in front of her. She's not going to put the boys in front of me. And I think they understood,
Hmm.
and they had to maybe think about it a little bit because we wasn't always doing that. We were married 12 years and we never uttered those words because we just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And I wish we read these books 12 years ago. We just didn't. Okay, anything else?
I don't think so.
In his book, Smart Step Family, Ron Deal is. I think this is the book. If you don't have this book, you need to get this book right now. A bunch of other books. You need to get that book right now.
If you have to choose between all of them, you just have maybe you can just afford one. That's the one to get.
7 Steps to a Healthy Family. He speaks of how to cook up families, how to make a blended family. And he also says, you know, the term blended family is kind of a misnomer because you really don't want your family to be blended, kind of like a milkshake. You don't want that. You want your family to grow into a cohesive unit. And blending involves some, what you call like chopping up, you
Yeah,
know.
it kind of takes away the individuality of each
Yeah,
person.
yeah. And like throwing ingredients in a blender and making something great. You can't expect to move 2 sets of family units into one and expect a cohesive unit overnight. And I say it was easy for us because I didn't have any kids, but
I wouldn't say it was easy. I think it was
but it's
easier, maybe.
easier. But I had to go back and um, rephrase my thinking because there were I think in my own mind I don't think I could verbalize this out loud. And if somebody said this is what you're thinking, I said no, I'm not. But I think looking back, I think I was trying to not. It's one of the levels here, but I was trying to make this new family with her and the boys like um, this is their only family, and I was trying to make I'm their dad, and I don't have no kids, so they're my kids, and I'm gonna treat them as my kids, and they're gonna treat me as their dad. I think I was kind of thinking that, and not really realizing it. Some kids will bond with a step parent quicker than others, while some may take years to bond, and some step parents may reject the kids in some form or fashion. The blender combination can be seen as self-serving for adults because we just want to throw everybody together and okay, that's right. Let's just get together and let's just make it work. Let's just make it work. Make it work. Make it work. Um, we can't just expect the kids to move on from their loss, the experience, and just be happy with the living situation. Let's say they lost their parent. Let's say their mother died, and so father marries another woman. They can't just automatic. The new mother can't just say, "Okay, now I'm your mother now." It's going to be hard for them to accept that, and they may not ever. So you're just going to have to deal with that. Or the divorce. Divorce is a tragedy. And it's a loss because they lost that relationship between their mom and dad. They don't live together anymore. And something that my parents were divorced too. And when it happened, I was like, wow. You know, I look back and I'm thinking, I would have never guessed that would ever happen. And so the kids, while the husband and wife they divorce, they um, can't bring it back, can't get reconciled. One don't want to reconcile. One don't want to seek forgiveness, or one doesn't want to repent. And they just can't live like that. The kids don't understand that. So them it's a tragedy. So you can't force them to just you get over it, kids. You're in a new family, you just gotta get over it.
Hmm.
You can't expect that. Okay. The next one is the food processor. You wanna talk about that?
Stopping up the past history and expecting a new reality to just happen right away. So step parents expecting their step kids to automatically call them dad or mom when they are not ready or willing to do so, especially if there's ill feelings about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're I know it happens. So if you're married and your new relationship is based on somebody, they cheated with each other basically, and now they're married. So now because I've known many people that have done this. So this couple, and one person from this couple, and one person from this couple cheated with each other. And now this is a new family. So there's going to be bitter feelings. And even if that's not the case, there's still going to might be bitter feelings, or there just might be hesitation to accept the new step parent. So, and then there sometimes when there's animosity between, you know, let's just, for example, let's say there was animosity between me and my ex, and I'd be like, you're gonna call him dad, and you're forgetting
Yeah.
about that one. You're just gonna do it. That's just the way it is. That's not the way to do it. So that's
The thing is the animosity, the problem between you and that ex is real,
hmm
but it
that's
ain't
not the
real to
kid's
them.
fault.
It ain't. They didn't do it to. Well, it affects them, but they didn't cheat on the kids. They don't see it like that. Well,
Yeah,
dad didn't cheat on me.
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and so you can't be too quick to eliminate past family traditions and expect the kids to automatically accept new traditions. So if they're used to doing Christmas a certain way, then you need to still try to incorporate those things so they don't feel like everything is just different now. And that's one thing that I learned in divorce care too, is like, don't change up everything. If they're already having to deal with either mom being gone or dad being gone, whichever case may be. I continued going to the church where my ex and I were members because I wanted to just move churches and everything. But divorce care taught me that don't change up everything. The kids still need familiarity. They still need um, things that they knew. So you're going to have to change where you live if you're divorcing. That's just the way it is. You don't have to change schools. You don't have to change churches. You don't have to change everything. So that's one thing you can't just. They're already having to deal with changing with the new step parent. So don't expect them just to forget everything else and say, this is your new life. This is your dad now. So just forget it all. And that's just kind of throwing everything up and throwing everything in a food processor and chopping it up and just expecting it
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah. That's like in Ron Deal. What we're talking about, Ron Deal gives examples of cooking techniques as a way to make a blended family or step
Mm,
family or whatever. Um, we didn't know we didn't know any of this. And what we're doing in this episode, we're giving you ideas to think of as you start this blended family. Cause I'm telling you, I'll be honest with you, it ain't gonna work like you think it is. You just can't say, okay, kids, this is your stepmom, this is your stepdad, and we're gonna have a perfect life. It just think you gotta work at it. You gotta make plans, you gotta talk, you gotta strategize and make compromises.
mhm.
You gotta learn each other. And the next example he gives is the microwave example. The microwave family basically is we're trying to create a even though it's a blended family, we want it to be the nuclear family. We want it to be just like the first family, where I don't want you I don't want you saying step family. I don't want you thinking stepdad or stepmom. We are the genuine article. I'm your mom. She's your mom. I'm your dad. You're not my stepkid. You're my real kid. I know you're going to visit your real dad or your real mom, but we're gonna act like we're the real deal. Um, in his book, Smart Step Family, Ron Deal gives an example of a woman who was acting like this. She insisted that her stepdaughter's um, biological mom has abandoned her. In fact, but they didn't. It might have been they abandoned her emotionally, wasn't really taking care of her, wasn't supporting her. So the stepmom was trying to create some animosity. I'm better than your mom, so you should treat me like your mom. And she claims that she's taken over the role as a real mother. This sounds good on the surface, but in reality sets in when that stepmom can't sign legal documents. And I've been there. Um, you can't legally you can't do the roles that a mother does. Um, you can't force the step family to become a regular, normal family. You can't force it. You can't just demand that it happens right away. You have to embrace your uniqueness as a step family. You just have to, you know what? I'm a stepdad. I'm just going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to learn what that means. I'm going to have to learn what a stepdad means. I just can't pretend that I am a dad. When a great man that officiated our wedding gave me this book, I read a little bit of it and I like, I don't need that. That's one of the biggest mistakes because this book would have helped me. This book will help you, stepdads. There's a stepmom too.
Hmm.
I'm reading it again. As I skim through it, I think there's a lot of good stuff in here that would have helped me 11, 12 years ago. Uh, you want to talk about the next one?
Next is just pressure cooker. So it's kind of goes back to some of the stuff we already talked about. Basically, pushing the blended family to the limits, making unrealistic demands for your family, expecting the kids to just deal with it and adjust to the changes automatically. So, a pressure cooker, there's a lot of pressure built up, and I see this as you just push the kids to the limit, and then it just blows up because you just expected too much, maybe too fast, or your kids they haven't accepted the relationship yet, maybe, and you're expecting them to treat you like you're the biological parent, and they're just gonna resist, 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 and it's just gonna blow up eventually. And so that's kind of how I see that one.
Yeah. And as I look through these, you may think, which one were you guys? I think we're a combination of every one of them, except the last one. We're trying to be the last one. We'll get there, and you'll say, okay. But we are a combination of all the bad ones. Then he called one method called the toss, like a toss salad, where you just throw everything together and you just kind of wing it. You just kind of wing it. Let's hope it works. All right, we're not going to have a plan. We're just going to hope it works.
Yeah.
Basically, no real plans or schedules. The routines changes. This week we're going to do it this way. That next week we're going to do it that way.
Yeah.
Even with dealing with the biological parents, no plan there,
No set routine
no set routines.
with vegetation.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
kids
then
need routine.
and nothing like she's talking about were some of the kids she's seen as a school teacher in her past, to where their parents have one husband after another, or the
Just a live-in boyfriend or something.
live-in boyfriends or live-in girlfriends, and it's not good for the kids. There's no consistency for the kids. Multiple dating relationships affect the kids negatively. There's no family stability. And then the last one, she's really good at talking about this. The crock pot cooking, kind of like a slow cooker.
Hmm.
How would you best explain? I'm going to quote from Rondell, but how would you best explain that method?
Well, it's like when you cook with a crock pot, you put all the ingredients in there and you turn it on low and you let it simmer. And
Yep.
every ingredient in the crock pot is going to cook differently. Some may cook faster, some may cook slower. So with your family, you know, where I had three boys, I have three boys. They're grown up to be men now, but
Uh,
each boy or each, depending on your family, each girl, whatever, is going to accept the step parent on their own time and in their own way. And so one of the things that Ron Deal talks about is getting to know each child and what they like and don't like, and how you can relate to them in a way that they will accept you, and learning, how, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but how their love language is and
yeah.
how to reach each kid. And so if this kid likes to just sit down and talk, then you're going to sit down and talk with this kid. If this kid would rather go out and throw a football around or whatever, you can go out and throw a football around, or you learn what each kid likes and just slowly build that relationship with them, and it's eventually going to come together enough. It's like he said before, it's not going to be completely blended,
Hmm.
but it's going to be as good as it can be eventually.
So in his book here, and I'm quoting Ron Deal, I'll give him the credit here. Smart Step Family. It's called Smart Step 2, Step Down. The crock pot cooking. Um, Step families choosing this style, which is the best. This is what you should choose. This approach. Crock pot cooking. What do you do with a crock pot?
Put the ingredients in there, turn on low,
Yeah.
let it cook slowly.
And it cooks 8 to 10 hours. Well, no, if you put it on low, which is the best way, put it on low. Let it cook 8 to 10 hours. It takes a long time. If you want something right away, don't cook the crock pot. But if you want something good, it's going to take some time, use a crock pot.
Mm-hmm.
Step families choosing this style understand that time and low heat make effort. So low heat to me, low heat to me means patience. What's that signify to you? Patience
Mm-hmm.
and
Just give it time.
effort.
Don't expect it to happen overnight.
Yeah. A lot of effort. A lot of effort.
Mm.
And some of the quotes here. Average step family needs 5 to 7 years to integrate. So this method might take 5 to 7 years or 12 years. It took us a little bit longer because we just
We
didn't
didn't get
realize
started right away.
we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't read these books like we should have. We didn't take everything we've been telling you in our videos. We did not do this, and we're not being hypocritical. We just didn't know. What's that phrase we always say?
We didn't know. We
We
didn't
didn't know.
know.
We didn't know. Yep. Step families need time to adjust to new living conditions, and it takes time. You can't just say, "Here's your room. Here's your stuff. Here's your closet. This is your bathroom. Here's your rules. Now, welcome to the family. Now we expect you to to do right.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta take time. Maybe what do you think about your room? What can I do to make it better? You know, maybe use that kind of approach. They need time to experience one another, develop trust. Especially if I had kids and she had kids. That's they're not just gonna say, okay, it's my new stepsister, it's gonna be great. Or it's my new stepbrother, it's gonna be great. It may not be great. It's gonna take time. Um, commitment and sharing it. They need time to find a sense of belonging. The new family. You're not my dad, or she's not my mom, but she's married to my dad, or he's married to my mom. I don't know if I like the guy, but I don't know if I like him being acting like my dad. So if that's their attitude, okay. He's not 100% okay with he's not 50% okay with me acting like his dad. So maybe I shouldn't try to push it. It's going to be tough, guys or women, stepmoms. It's going to be tough, but you have to be cognizant of that. None of these things can be rushed. Cooking with low heat refers to your gradual, intentional efforts to bring the parts together. You see something's not working, stop. Stop. Hey, this ain't working. We need to do something different. It works. It is working smarter, not harder. Man, I've heard that for years. Work smarter, not harder. But you know us men, we're hard headed. We just gotta do things the hard way. Let the stepchild set the pace for the relationship and match their. Remember, they didn't ask for any of this. They didn't ask for a divorce. They didn't ask for a parent to die. And whether they like you or not, stepmom or stepdad, they didn't ask for you to marry. Oh, they might have. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an older kid, they might have set you guys up. But younger kids didn't ask for a new stepmom or a new stepdad. They didn't ask for that. So you need to be patient and work with that. And I wasn't always that way, and I wasn't always patient. Sound good? I didn't know. Uh, if a kid is affectionate towards their stepfather, let him return the same. So be on that kid's level. If the kid is reluctant, you don't be reluctant, but okay, he's reluctant, so I'm not going to push it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give him or her some space. We'll work on it. Find what works for you. Find what works. If she remains distant or standoffish, he shouldn't. If the kid is distant or standoffish, reluctant, don't force it. Don't force the issue, stepdad or stepmom. But trying to find something that you can bond together with. Like my first boy, it was basketball. Basketball. The oldest boy. Before we even got married, him and I were playing. I put him on my team for the 2-on-2 basketball game in the church parking lot. He just loved it. So I was like, that's gonna be our common thing. Basketball and then golf and it just sitting down talking about things. And you know what? I was in the Air Force, but we got engaged, and I went to Kuwait for 6 months, and we'd already knew we were going to get married, so we kind of let him pick a room and start setting it up.
Mm-hmm.
We let him pick a room in my house and set it up, so he would come and stay the weekends and take care of my dog. And um, they weren't moved in. He was just trying to get settled in. I think that worked for him. It's like this. I've already got me a room. I'm getting settled in. I think that worked for him.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing, and then I'll let her talk. Where he talks about how you refer to each other. One kid might call you dad or stepdad or some kind of affectionate term that you would say to a father. Another kid might call you by your name, Joey or Jim or whatever. Or another kid may call you Mr. Joey. Don't don't say, hey, the other one called me dad. Well, why don't you guys call me the same thing? You don't do that. Don't do that. Let them address you. If it's positive, make it positive. If Mr. Joey is a positive term, I'm gonna accept that. Um, if they want to call you daddy or mommy, let them do that. Don't say, well, I'm not your mom, so don't do that. But if that comes around, okay, if that comes, let's say you're the stepdaddy or stepmom, and one of the kids wants to call you mom or dad, I would say, okay, I'm okay with that, but let's make sure that your real mom or dad don't like that. And if they're not okay with that, maybe we need to adjust that. That's a conversation that you need to have. Crockpot step families recognize the emotional and psychological attachment children have to biological parents, and don't force them to change those attachments. You have anything else to add to all this?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to what I call the most important thing of this whole episode: 5 love languages. When last year, when we did our marriage renewal and we strengthened our marriage, and we realized that we didn't quite do the whole blended family thing the way we should have.
Mm-hmm.
I started reading these books. She read this one first, and then I read this one, Building Love, and then she read it. This was probably the better book. Building Love to, it's a smaller book. Building love together in a blended families. So let me, if you want to just read something small, really quick, read this one first. It's a good book. It's by Gary Chapman and Ron Deal. And most of the book is based on the 5 love languages that Gary Chapman writes. And um, you need to know the love language of your spouse. You know that y'all need to know each other's love languages, and you need to know the love language of your own kids, even your biological kids. You may think you know them, but take the test. They have a test in here. It looks something like this, where they ask you questions, and your answer, how you answer it, is based bases whether what love language is stronger in you.
Mm-hmm.
And they have one for teenagers. They don't really have one for little kids. It might be hard to really
They may
distinguish
not
that.
understand what that
Yeah,
means.
but they have a love language test for teenagers. So if you have teenagers in your blended family, have them take this love language test. So Lori and I took it again. We've taken it twice in this last year. Lori, you talk about what my results are. How should you focus on me?
Well, quickly, I'm going to go over the 5.
Yeah, go over the 5 love languages. Yeah,
That way they know what we're talking about.
yeah.
In case
Sorry
you're not
about that.
familiar with this.
I'm kind of getting ahead of myself.
So there's 5 basic love languages. Words of affirmation. That's basically just, good job, encouraging things. I know you can do it. That's a nice outfit, stuff like that. Quality time. So giving someone your full undivided attention, meaningful conversations, maybe playing games if you're talking about kids, going shopping, going to movies, whatever. Receiving gifts. So giving something to someone that they're going to like. So if they like getting cards, get them a card. If they like getting flowers, give them a flower. Give them flowers. If it's kids, if they like getting toys, give them a toy. If they rather have money, give them money. Whatever. So receiving gifts. And then what's the last one? Acts of service. So doing things to help the other person. So if you're talking about adults, it might be helping cleaning or doing laundry, whatever. If you're dealing with kids, it might be helping them rearrange their room, helping them with a chore, things like that. And the physical touch is the last one. Just connecting physically. It doesn't have to be sexual. It could just be holding hands. It could just be sitting next to each other on the couch. If you're dealing with your children, it just could be sitting next to them watching their TV show, or maybe sitting by them while they're playing their video game, or whatever. Just maybe it could just be being in the same room with them. Some kids may not want you like right there. They might just as long as you're where you can see them. I have a twin sister, and my niece My sister always talked about when her kids were little, her daughter always wanted her to be where she could see her.
Mm.
So if she left the room, the daughter's behind her, like, "Where you going, mom?" She as long as she could see her, she was good. She just needed to be within eyesight of her. So that could just be that it may not be actual physical touch. It may just be that you're in the same room together. So anyway, so when Joey took his test, and like he said, we've done this twice. And I think it probably wouldn't hurt to do it like every 6 months or so because people change. And mine changed. So when we did this right after the conference, I had certain ones that were top, and then we did it again. Maybe a month ago,
Yeah,
maybe.
a couple weeks ago.
And my
Yeah.
top two kind of changed a little bit, which I was kind of surprised by that. But it could just, I'm a teacher, so I think my wants and needs are different.
You probably read the test different this time.
Whether I'm in school or out of school during the summer, I think it might change because
Probably analyze the
when
questions different too.
or just being in school, I'm exhausted more and overstimulated more and all that stuff than I am during the summer. The last time I took it, but anyway, so his looks like his quality time was his biggest one, and then he had a tie for second place, which is words of affirmation and physical touch, or his second one. So he likes to sit on the couch at the last hour or so before we go to bed and just watch TV or read a book or whatever. He's working on a Bible study or um, we're watching a show together or whatever it is.
Uh,
What do you mind?
so in hers, her number one, she's got some that are really close together.
Mm-hmm.
Her number one is a tie.
Yeah.
She like acts of service and physical touch. You know, she likes it when I sit next to her and I hold her hand, and whenever I put her arm around her, and I just kind of
And again, and the physical touch doesn't have to be,
yep,
sexual. It just can be
hug her in the morning,
affectionate.
just hug her in the morning, and
And I think the first time we took this, I think quality time and physical touch were my number one. Were the two I had two that tied, I think last time too. My top two tied, I think last time maybe. I don't remember now.
okay. So husband, let me give you something here. This is when I see she's frustrated, she's aggravated, whether it's school or whatever it is, I know that I can just come and grab a hold of her, you know, and then say something nice to her. And, husbands, you should know what to say. You should know. That's the physical touch. That's what she likes. You gotta know that about your wife. You gotta know that about your kids too. Acts of service. She likes me to help her around the house, and I've gotten better the last year or so than I had before. A lot of times I was gone with the Air Force working night shift, and I sleep all night, and I get up. I mean, I sleep all day, and get up work all night, and go on these crazy trips where I'm gone 4 to 6 months. Now I'm here every day, and I have more time to do things. So when I help her, it makes her feel at ease. And she can work on her homework that she brings home from school, and she can just relax. And we help each other around the house, and and it and it really helps helps us in our relationship. Now, and these things also for the kids too. It's it's more defined with adults. It's not so defined with kids.
Mm.
It's like you're talking about the words of affirmation. This is where it's going to be tough for step parents, where you may see the biological kids go to their biological parents, and the words they say to them are not going to be the same words they say to the step parents. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just love you so much, Mama. Hey, Joey. You know, or hey, Sue. You know, oh, Mama, Mama, Mama. Hey, high five, Daddy, or stepdad, stepmom. You just got to accept that, and if you want them to respond better, you need to respond better. Quality time. You may have to you got to make sure that if your kids like quality time, don't deny that. And if your stepkids don't like quality time, don't force it on them. And again, they might be, well, I want more quality time with my biological parent than I do with my step parent. That might happen. Then all these receiving gifts, especially with your step kids, your biological kids, you probably know. Yep, they got a closet full of toys they don't need. So I'm not gonna buy them no more junk because they don't. That's not their love language. So if you have a biological kid, I'm gonna keep buying them stuff. And if you keep buying them stuff and you find out later on that all that stuff's in a pile in the closet, that's not their gift.
Yeah.
Don't do that because you might get frustrated. I keep buying them stuff. I keep showing them that I care about buying them stuff.
That's not what they're
Yeah.
seeing it as.
Yep. Yep. They may see it as ingenuous
Yeah.
acts of service. So how can you serve your kid? So, help them. Something I do for my boy, and we kind of got a stubborn, headstrong boy. Hey, go, put away your clothes. Sometimes you got to tell him 4 or 5 times in 2 or 3 days. What worked for me, I go in there and help him. And let me go in there and help you. Get it done in 5 minutes. And we're sitting there watching TV and talking. That's a bonding time. Physical touch. And here, step parents, you know, your kid may come to their biological parent, hug on them and whatever. They come to you and just say, hey, you know, it's not going to be the same. You can't force it. Anything else to add to that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so this episode's going kind of long, but that's okay because this is our last one. And there's so much you could say about blended family. And the next time we come around, I'm reading the book right now, Preparing to Blend, which kind of goes along with what we're saying. But there's so much in here. And I'm writing down notes and I'm getting thoughts in my head for our next time we come around to doing blended family shows. But we're going to end this all with a couple of quick points. Number one, the biological parent must be the primary parent. Um, you want to elaborate on that?
Well, just especially with this one, because hopefully you have a good relationship with your biological child and they're going to take it better from you than they will
Mhm.
from the step parent. And just like when just like being a teacher, like my kids respond better to me than they respond better to a substitute. So, and Rhonda, I think, even refers to a step parent as like a kind of a substitute or
Mhm.
kind of like a babysitter, if you will. Um, so you need to, even if I'm the mom, and I guess in a marriage, you have the dad is usually the one that's disciplinarian and the mother is usually the nurturer. But with a blended family, I'm the biological parent, so I have to be the disciplinarian with my biological children. And then he is the supporter role and he's building the relationship. So while I'm doing the discipline and keeping the structure, and he's building that relationship, and there will become a place where he's comfortable and the kids are comfortable enough where he can start doing the discipline. That's something else we didn't.
We didn't do very well. We didn't do very well at
I
that.
kind of put him in the here. You're the dad now,
Well, she,
so you do. No,
she kind of had a mind frame where the dad is, the head of the family, the man, the husband's the head of the family, and we just didn't know.
and it wasn't like I said, okay, now you're going to discipline. It
We
was
just
just kind
didn't
of just
know.
happened.
Yeah,
That's just what we did.
we didn't know that there was going to be such hostility with me trying to act like the authority figure.
Hmm.
But now we know, and it may not be that way, but chances are the step parent trying to be the authoritative figure is going to be taken with hostility. What else on that?
I think that's it.
Step parents focus on building relationships. Yeah, so instead of being the authoritative figure right away, I need to work on um, building a relationship. But that's not going to work if the biological parent, whoever it is, the father or the mother, isn't being the disciplinarian. And I think it might be more difficult at the non-custodial home whenever they go on the weekend visitations,
Mhm.
where the biological parent may want to just, I only get to see you 2 days every other week, so I'm going to try to, let you get away with things.
Mhm.
Maybe. And so the step parent's like, oh, they're getting away with murder, and they kind of put the hammer down.
Yep.
Biological parents can't be passive. Um, especially like when you go, say, on the visitation side, when your kid goes to the other parent for visitation. If it's your 2 or 3 days every other week to see that kid, hey, guess what? You still got to be the parent. You still got to be the mom. You still got to be the dad. You can't just let that kid run wild and not be disciplined, right? Um,
Yeah, even like you said before, well, I only get to see you twice a week, so I'm just gonna let you have fun and do whatever.
mhm, do your own thing.
They need to have structure in both places because it's not good for the kids to have one way here and one way here. And you don't have to discipline exactly the same and all that, but there still needs to be structure in both places.
But look, regardless if it's the custodial parent or the non-custodial parent, if that biological parent isn't being the parent, isn't being the authoritative role, eventually the other parent is going to step in there and say, "Hey, something's got to be done about this kid. Something's got to be done."
That or the the main, what do you call that? Not main parent, but you become the bad guy because
Yeah, yeah.
then they get to go over the other place and do
Mhm.
whatever and have fun, and then you're the mean one because you make them get up at a certain time and go to bed at a certain time and take a shower and
Yeah. And that's where
stuff.
kind of transition to our next point. Keep relationships with biological parents civil. So, like she's saying, going to the non-custodial parent when they do your visitations back and forth, make sure, okay, bedtime is at whatever time, shower at night, this is their eating habits. This is, what we um, require for phone use or TV use or whatever. You
Mhm.
can't just say these are the rules here, but they don't apply over there.
Well, and I would say also don't do things in a spiteful way
Yeah.
because you're still mad at the other parent or whatever. Like again, that's one of the things I see as a teacher. Sometimes I have to have conferences with biological parents separately because they don't want to get along for 10 minutes. So I can have one conference. And what if I did that for every student? I would be doing double conferences pretty much because most of my kids, used to be where a handful of them lived in a situation. Now, most of them live in some kind of situation where they're not living with both of their biological parents. But, just get along, even if it's just in front of the kids. Like, get along, let them see you being civil to each other, and, don't talk bad about the other parent. Don't, because you're going to create a false sense of negativity toward that parent. Plus, when they get old enough to figure out what you've been doing this whole time, then they're going to be mad at you because well, you've been lying to me this whole time. You've been saying that this
Yeah.
biological parent was doing this and this and this, and they really weren't. And I could have had all these years of relationship with that parent, but now I can't because you've been, So you need to keep it civil, even if you don't. You're still mad at that person. You just need to fake it and get along because that's what your kids need to see. I mean,
And,
seriously.
and you need to be civil with the other parent, your ex or whatever you call it. The biological parents need to be civil with each other. Even if hey, we got to meet at somebody's house, we need to have a sit down and talk. But keep it at arm's length. Keep it at a distance. You don't want the kids to think, oh, look, man, mom and dad are getting together all the time.
Mhm.
You don't want to give them a false impression that they're trying to get back together or don't. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Keep it at a distance. Don't let them realize, okay, we are still separate. We have different lives now, but we're going to be civil. We're not getting back together, but we're going to be civil. Keep it at arm's length. And wrap it up. The last thing the most important thing you need to remember, all this is time and patience is the key. Time and patience. That's the whole crock pot, slow cooker mentality. Time and patience. Give it time. It ain't gonna happen overnight. It might not even happen in a year. Like Ron Deal says, blended family takes 5 to 7 years on the average to work to make a cohesive unit. And patience. If you don't have patience, it's just gonna make it worse. You have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's it. Well, thank you for watching and like and subscribe. And next week we're going to talk about the good things in marriage. So I hope you will join us. Goodbye.
Okay.